Hello and welcome to Wednesday's edition of the Literary Lutheran Reads a Book of Concord. Today we're continuing to go through the power and primacy of the Pope. Testimony of history. Note: history also shows that the claims of the Roman bishop lack foundation in the Church's practice through the ages. In the 4th century, it was understood that the Bishop of Alexandria would administer the churches in the East, and the Roman bishop would serve the same function in the West. The Roman bishop's position derived from human decisions made at a council for the sake of order in the church, not out of some special institution by Christ. Bishops were historically chosen by their own congregations, not by the Roman bishop. There were and continue to be many churches throughout the world that do not depend on Roman authority to exist. Many of the church's historic councils were held without the Roman bishops presiding over them. Various church fathers are cited as speaking of equality among the bishops. Even Gregory the Great, who Rome says is a pope, rejected the title of universal bishop and rejected notions of primacy. The Council of Nicaea resolved that the Bishop of Alexandria should administer the churches in the East and the Roman bishop, the suburban churches, that is, those in the Roman provinces, in the West. From this start, by a human law, the resolution of the Council, the authority of the Roman bishop first arose. If the Roman bishop already had the superiority by divine law, it would not have been lawful for the Council to take away any right from him and transfer it to the Bishop of Alexandria. No, all the bishops of the East should always have sought ordination and confirmation from the Bishop of Rome. The Council of Nicaea also determined that bishops should be elected by their own churches in the presence of one or more neighboring bishops. This was observed also in the West in the Latin churches, as Cyprian and Augustine testify. For Cyprian says in his 4th letter to Cornelius, "So as for the divine observance and apostolic practice, you must carefully keep and practice what is also observed among us and in almost all the provinces. To celebrate ordination properly, whatever bishops of the same province live nearby should come together with the people for whom a pastor is being appointed. The bishop should be chosen in the presence of the people, who most fully know the life of each candidate. We have seen this done among us at the ordination of our colleague Sabinus. By the vote of the entire brotherhood and by the judgment of the bishops who had assembled in their presence, the bishop's office was conferred and hands were laid on him." Cyprian calls this custom a divine tradition and an apostolic observance. He affirms that it is observed in almost all the provinces. In the greater part of the world, in the Latin and Greek churches, neither ordination nor confirmation was sought from a bishop of Rome. Therefore, it is clear enough that the churches did not then grant superiority and domination to the Bishop of Rome. Such superiority is impossible. It is just not possible for one bishop to be the overseer of the churches of the whole world. Churches in the most distant lands cannot seek ordination from only one person. It is clear that Christ's kingdom is scattered throughout the whole world. Today there are many churches in the East that do not seek ordination or confirmation from the Roman bishop. Since the superiority the Pope claims for himself is impossible and has not been acknowledged by churches in the greater part of the world, it is clear enough that it was not instituted by Christ and does not spring from divine law. Many ancient councils have been proclaimed and held in which the Bishop of Rome did not preside, such as that of Nicaea and most others. This too testifies that the Church did not then acknowledge a primacy or superiority of the Bishop of Rome. Jerome says, "If there was a question about authority, the world is greater than the city. Wherever there has been a bishop, whether at Rome or Eugibium," forgive me for murdering that one, "or Constantinople, or Rhegium, or Alexandria, he has the same dignity and priesthood." Pope Gregory, writing to the Patriarch at Alexandria, forbids that he be called universal bishop. In the records he says that in the Council of Chalcedon the primacy was offered to the Bishop of Rome, but it was not accepted. Last, how can the Pope be over the entire Church by divine right when the Church elects him? And what of the custom that gradually prevailed of bishops of Rome being confirmed by the emperors? When for a long time there have been conflicts over the primacy between the bishops of Rome and Constantinople, the Emperor Phocas finally determined that the primacy should be assigned to the Bishop of Rome. But if the ancient church had acknowledged the primacy of the Roman pontiff, this conflict could not have occurred, nor would the emperor have needed to make the decree. Refutation of Roman arguments. Note, Melanchthon deals clearly with the Bible verse most commonly used by the Roman Church to establish papal superiority, Matthew chapter 16, verse 18, the famous "You are Peter" passage. Peter is representative of the apostolic band, and so what is said to him is spoken to them all. The keys are given not just to Peter, but to all the apostles to be used in service for the church. They belong to the whole church, not just the church's ministers. Further, the ministry of the word is founded not on a man, Peter, but upon his confession. On this rock refers not to Peter, but to the New Testament ministry of confessing Christ. On the rock of what Peter confessed, the church is built. Christ nowhere gave his followers anything but spiritual authority. Even if the Bishop of Rome did have divine authority, faithless popes teaching and advancing false doctrine should be rejected and opposed. For nobody, not even an angel, can teach anything contrary to the revealed gospel in the scriptures. Galatians chapter 1, verse 8. They cite against us certain passages, namely Matthew chapter 16, verses 18 and 19. You are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church. Also, I will give you the keys. Also, John 21, verse 15, feed my lambs, and some others. Since this entire controversy has been fully and accurately treated elsewhere in the books of our theologians, and everything cannot be reviewed here, we refer to those writings and wish them to be considered repeated here. Yet we will briefly reply about the interpretation of the passages above. In all these passages, Peter is a representative of the entire assembly of apostles, as appears from the text itself. Christ does not ask Peter alone when he says, "Who do you say that I am?" Matthew chapter 16, verse 15. What is said here to Peter alone in the singular number, "I will give you," singular, "the keys, and whatever you," singular, "bind," chapter 16, verse 19, is elsewhere expressed in the plural. Example, Matthew chapter 18, verse 18, "Whatever you," plural, "bind," and John chapter 20, verse 23, "If you," plural, "forgive the sins of anyone." These words show that the keys are given to all the apostles alike, and that all the apostles are sent forth alike. In addition, it must be recognized that the keys belong not to the person of one particular man, but to the church. Many most clear and firm arguments show this. For Christ speaking about the keys adds, for example, "If two of you agree on earth," Matthew chapter 18, verse 19. Therefore he grants the keys first and directly to the church. This is why it is first the church that has a right of calling. For just as the promise of the gospel belongs certainly and immediately to the entire church, so the keys belong immediately to the entire church, because the keys are nothing else than the office whereby this promise is communicated to everyone who desires it, just as it is actually manifest that the church has the power to ordain ministers of the church. And Christ speaks in these words, "Whatsoever you shall bind," etc., and indicates to whom he has given the keys, namely to the church, "where two or three are gathered together in my name." Likewise, Christ gives supreme and final jurisdiction to the church when he says, "Tell it unto the church." Therefore, these passages demonstrate that Peter is a representative of the entire assembly of the apostles. They do not grant Peter any privilege or superiority or lordship. This has been the Literary Lutheran Reads the Book of Concord, and I wish you a blessed day.